Hello, this is Ragnon. I wanted to do a quick commentary on a Blood Key, Blood Death Knight. This is a week that has some pretty difficult affixes, so I figured this would be a good week to try to make some content for Blood Death Knight. The week is Fortified, Fortified Tyrannical. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Fortified, Necrotic Sanguine, and Tormented. This is just like a vault level key, a DOS, level 15. This is a pug that I joined through the LFG tool. Don't know anybody here, so I'm just going to be talking through things, kind of explaining my thought process on pulls and stuff like that. And hopefully this is helpful for people who are just maybe getting started with Death Knight, or maybe you're like me and you're always looking for ways to optimize and improve and just looking for gaps in learning. So I am running, I didn't show my talent setup here. I'm running the pretty standard talent setup. Hard Strike. The notable ones as I am running Bone Storm, and I am running Grip of the Dead, and yeah, so those are the two big ones that are probably change up between people's builds. I'm also running Draven. Draven has some fantastic benefits for tank, namely you take less damage when you're below a certain health threshold. So that combined with I'm spacing on the name of it. The one that, the Lichy one, the talent that reduces damage when you're below 40% health. So those two together, when you're below 30% health, you're taking 40% reduced damage. So like your health will jump down and then it'll just kind of stop because you're taking almost half damage from there till dead. So pretty nice. So here, this pull can be a little tricky. My general game plan on pulls is I'm trying to start it off with cooldowns. Specifically, I'm trying to use Swarming Mist and Dancing Rune Weapon and Bone Storm. Those are the three big cooldowns that I want to pop on the start of a pull. And then, of course, the normal stuff like Blood Boiling to get my dots up on everybody, and also that's a huge damage ability. Maintaining my bone shield stacks, trying to keep them above 7 ideally, definitely above 5 so that you can get the ossuary buff so that death strikes cost less, and then getting aggro during those cooldown windows. So here I'm coming in and I'm gonna pop, I forget which order I did it, but I'm gonna pop Bone Storm, Swarming Mist, Dancing Rune Weapon, and then I'm going to try to stand still for as long as possible for things like wild spirits and stuff like that. So I'm getting threat on everything, damaging. As you can see, I'm not getting hardly any necrotic stacks. My health is very stable. Suddenly my cooldowns are going to start to end. And I made a mistake here. I used Door of Shadows to kite too early. I actually didn't need to go that early. I was fine, so I really should have waited just a little bit longer. After I did that, I actually started walking back to try to keep them in the wild spirits. So I was a little bit early on my part. I was thinking too far ahead. So and on Sanguine here, I'm just trying to the saying that is in my mind to help me with this is I'm trying to paint the floor red. Unfortunately, I was out there, but I was able to use Gorfians to get them out. So Blood Death Knight has some extra utility to be able to work around the Sanguine, which is very nice. But essentially, as the pack is starting to die, you just start walking and just paint a nice little blood trail of the Sanguine puddles. So coming into this next pull, Swarming Mist is back up, Bone Storm is back up. Those should be up just about every pull, so you want to use those on the start so that they're consistently ready on the start of the next pull. So here I'm using Swarming Mist, generate rune power. Once I hit 100, I'm going to Bone Storm. I did set focus on the Death Speaker. I have a set focus kick macro, which is really helpful for packs like this because I want to make sure that I'm getting those shadow cores. If everybody else kicks other stuff, that's whatever. Okay, so now I'm starting to get pretty high stacks. Around 20 is where I start to think about kiting, because by the time you can actually get out as a Blood Death Knight, you're probably going to be at like 30 or more. My tools that I have to kite for Necrotic is I have Door of Shadows, which is probably the best way to get away, especially in like Necrotic Wake and stuff like that where you got jumping mobs. That's really good. But your bread and butter kite is going to be dropping your second or third Death and Decay and then just walking away. and as long as there's not any like mobs that are immune to movement speed, then you can get away. So here I make a mistake. I drop an AMZ. It ends up being fine. I usually drop an AMZ here out of habit when it's the fire dude, when it's the fire lieutenant, because that helps out the healer. And a lot of times this next raging mob isn't too bad if the person pops the urn on time. Now sometimes in a pug situation it's good to just save AMZ because it's more important to, if somebody messes up the urn and they pop it too early or something and you get a full rage cast, then you probably want to go ahead and save AMZ. And on a higher key you're probably going to get a rage cast regardless. So I would recommend just saving AMZ for this dude here. So we're just going to get some aggro on him, maintain bone shield stacks in between every pull. At the end of each pull, I'm trying to end with as much runic power and as high bone shield stacks as possible so that there's less globals. So the pulls that are really scary are when you have nothing going into it and you have to build all of your stuff from the start. So that was perfect timing on the urn. You want to pop it in the middle after the first rage tick, so between 1 and 2. If you do it too early, he'll cast rage right now instead of enraged mask. So you want to make sure that you wait until 1 tick of the rage hits. So here, if I had more cooldowns, I could have pulled these soldiers into those big skeletons. It's a little scary on necrotic because the big skeletons aren't slowed. So that was another reason I wanted to just do this one pack, is because I got wild spirits and stuff down, and if I'm trying to kite here, I didn't score things early enough. It was a little slow. If I'm trying to kite these big risen warlords, because I have to run like full speed, otherwise I can't slow them with death and decay, so it makes it pretty sloppy. Now these guys, this group was very, very good at soothing, so I don't know if they were a group or something, if they're friends or whatever, but they seemed very coordinated, so that helped a lot. Having good DPS makes a gigantic difference. Like tanks, heals, yeah, those are important roles, but having quality DPS, you know, things get kicked, they help the tank kite, crowd controls are on point, soothes, like the packs don't last as long because of damage, like it's great. I didn't even have to kite once here, so on a fortified week, which is great. Now I'm over geared for this. This is a 15, and right now I think I'm 250, so I'm heavily over geared for this. So that's another reason. In a hierarchy, I probably would have had to kite, but it is what it is. I don't remember if you can taunt this guy and not pull the other one. I feel like you can, but I didn't want to risk it. It had been such a clean run. I figure it's fine waiting for, you know, less than 5 seconds for him to move so that I can just taunt him safely. Because I had some runs where pulls that I was pretty sure the lieutenant didn't get pulled with the other pack ended up pulling, so I just wanted to play it safe. This guy is scary, so don't be afraid to commit cooldowns into him. He reduces healing, so any kind of healing or any kind of damage reduction that you can use helps out the healer a lot. Vampiric Blood also helps, like pretty much negate the healing debuff, so you heal pretty much normal when Vampiric Blood's up. Essentially, the strategy for this guy, if you don't know, is just to stack, or at least stack with one other person for the fear that he does, and then as soon as that casts, then everybody spreads out, and he will charge a random player. And you only want that one player to get hit with the bleed, otherwise it gets kind of overwhelming for the healer. So here, some people get really impatient and they pull the lieutenant. I really don't like doing that. I like doing the spirit first because things happen. Doesn't matter the pathing. Some people, like if the spirit was still walking like the other direction from where he is right there, they would have pulled the lieutenant. I don't like that. I'm just going to wait a second for him to get away from those cultists. I know he doesn't social with the lieutenant, so here I taunt. Don't use Death Crest. Whenever you're worried about like mobs being pretty close together, do not use Death's Caress. That's your ranged Blood Plague application skill. Because if you're running whatever it's called, Super Strain Legendary, you will a lot of times pull other packs, sometimes even through walls and stuff, so it's always a good idea to taunt pull when things are scary like that. Also, it has the benefit of your taunt does not use a rune. So if you use Death's Crest, that's one less rune that you have going into a pull to generate all the stuff that you need to do. Your bone shield, you know, get enough runic power for for death strikes and stuff like that. Like you wanna use your runes effectively. So if you can, taunting is good. So here, this is a good pack for AMZ. I think I pop it at some point here. Just the ticking rot damage on everybody helps a lot. Unfortunately, we have a priest. He was able to mass the spell, so that helps a lot. So you can see our health is very stable because he was able to mass the spell everybody at the same time. Alright, this next pull on Inspiring, there's a mob that you can actually mind control. Not mind control, control undead. So Death Knight has several dungeons where you can control the undead Inspiring mob. It's really helpful. DOS is one of those. So here I'm going to kick the Death Speaker. I don't remember if I set focus on him, but I should have because I'm going to be using my kicks on him. One other thing that I haven't mentioned yet is, yes, I am using Swarming Mist and Dancing Room Weapon on pull and stuff, but your trinkets, I'm running 2 active trinkets. I'm running Blood Spattered Scale, and then I also have been fortunate enough to get a mythic level Aegis from the raid. Like every pull you can pretty much use one of those, and it's very, very nice. On the start of a pull when things are kind of scary and you're generating your resources and trying to do all the things that you need to do and try to squeeze in all of your globals, just popping like Blood Spattered or something like that just makes it super, super smooth, so that you have a big chunk of effective health to work with while you do stuff. So there, we interrupted the Death Speaker so that on the Shadow Core cast, so that he would move in. You can also Death Grip one of the smaller guys. The big guy can't be Death Gripped, he doesn't move. That way you can get them quickly into the urn. The Hunter did a good job of waiting just a little bit, because you don't need it right away. That lets me like utilize some cooldowns and stuff, and then he popped it, and then we kited it as we needed to after that. Now, at the end of that pull, I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble. And I was here because I used Dancing Rune Weapon. So my Dancing Rune Weapon is on cooldown. This is an example of one of the most dangerous pulls for Blood Death Knight. I'm coming out of this, I have no Bone Shield stacks, I have very low runic power, I have no resources, and we're doing a gigantic pull. So you need to have cooldowns here in order to survive, because there's just too many things that you need to do. So there I needed to use abilities on 3 different packs to try to get aggro. Here I'm struggling to get aggro. I'm trying to fit in a global for a Bone Storm. Finally got it off there. I was waiting for 100 runic power. Here my necrotic stacks are getting crazy. I need to be able to kite here. I use my Bull Rush in the hallway. I don't have it. So I tried Death's Advancing. There I tried Door of Shadowsing. I just didn't have enough stuff. So unfortunately I did die. And that was all due to not having enough cooldowns. I committed way too much to this pack out here where we had the urn. I really should have saved pretty much everything. You don't need really hardly any cooldowns for this pack outside because you have the urn. And then this pull is just so hard because your Bone Shield stacks drop off, you have no runic power, and you gotta pull 3 different mobs. That's 3 different globals that you have to use, whether that's using Death's Caress or a Taunt or Blood Boil or whatever. Like you're struggling to do that, and then get aggro because DPS don't wait, and yeah, it's tricky. So this is my only death in the dungeon though, and I know why it happened. Always room to improve. Somehow they survived, so this group is just great about controlling, I guess, crowd controlling, binding shot, I'm guessing, and slows. Alright, so here, Sagadon. He's gonna pull me in. No, he didn't. Okay, that's too close. Crush is big. Crush is a big tank hit, so you'll want to usually commit like a rune tap or something into that, and then be ready to death strike immediately after that. If you're fast about it, you'll heal so fast that the healer won't even notice that your health went down. It's also good to save AoE things like Blood Boil and Death and Decay. I didn't really do a good job about this on this guy, but it's a good idea to save AoE stuff like Blood Boil and Death and Decay and whatnot, and Bone Storm for the bindings here. Bone Storm's probably a bit much. That's a little bit of a waste. Unless you're popping it right on the start of him, it probably isn't going to be up for the next pack, so you want to be careful with that, because those are important to have on a pull. You don't want to use them like halfway through a pull, because you need them up for the next pack. So here I am going to at least Swarming Mist and Bone Storm. I don't remember if I Dancing Room Weapon here. I think I saved that because the next pull is going to be very big. And I need some stuff for that too, so Yeah, I did not use Dancing Rope. So here I turned my camera, and okay, so there I turned my camera and I was going to do a Door of Shadows, but unfortunately a Silent Circle landed on me right as I was about to cast it. So luckily I did have Bull's Rush up, which is why I run High Mountain Tauren. It's so nice. And I was able to turn my back and Bull Rush away. Now that's dangerous. I don't like doing that. I prefer to Bull Rush through the pack because that stuns them on the way. If you turn your back, you could just get one shot. But that was a good example. I was far away, and you can actually just, if you want to, I could literally stand at range and just keep dropping death and decays. I didn't want to do that because I wanted to make sure that I maintain aggro. We've got some pretty high DPS in here, and so I wanted to like alternate my kiting with staying in combat and trying to maintain my bone shield stacks, getting threat. I don't know what happened to the other two with that pat. There's only one bird, so I don't know. I think we accidentally pulled them with that last pull. I think they got added on when I was kiting backwards. Whatever. So I like to grab, there's an invisible pack here, so I blood boil to get him out. I pull those rune stags in from the other side. That's just kind of the route that I do to end this room with 64%, which I believe is what you need. So here we're just committing our cooldowns, Swarming Mist, Bone Storm, getting aggro, getting in as much damage as you can. And you notice we're max, we're highest DPS right now. We hit 16k on that. Like, that is awesome. That's why we run Bone Storm. And then after stuff started running out, the Hunter did a great job of waiting and popped the urn. So here, now we started taking a ton of damage. And we need to kite anyways because of Sanguine. So unfortunately, they're kind of slowed in that Sanguine. It's just kind of messy. So you can see the Sanguine healing is pretty crazy right now. But we're just kiting, dropping deaths and decay, and we can just walk away. I've got 42 stacks. Unfortunately, that guy aggroed. I remember this moment. I was like, are you serious? Because he just walked up and reset my stacks. I felt so bad. But luckily, we've got Door of Shadows. We've got tools we need to drop our stacks. Here, another death and decay. We're just going to stop. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of aggro on that pack that got added, that Blade Beak that kind of ganked me from the side. So I know I need to go back in here, get some more aggro. So Swarming Mist is back up. We're doing a Swarming Mist Bone Storm. Staying in, you notice my stacks are ticking up slower than I would have because I have extra 13% dodge. It's much better, obviously, with Dancing Rune Weapon. If I had the legendary Crimson Rune Weapon, which I'm looking at making, then I can always pair Swarming Mist and Dancing Rune Weapon together because it reduces it to about a minute, which is very nice. But I didn't, so. Here I notice the Wild Spirits is down. I want to keep them in as much as possible. If that one guy's dying, there's going to be a Sanguine pool. I should have moved a little earlier, but I knew I had Morphine, so I was able to reposition within a small space, which is pretty nice. So that guy's dying. I know there's going to be a Sanguine pool. They're all pretty low. I'm focusing the high health target so that they all can die at the same time. Because there's a brief moment where the Sanguine doesn't tick. So if they all die fast enough, then you actually don't need to really worry because they don't get any heals. So here I like pulling all of this except for the Matriarch. I don't care if the other ones get added in after. We're really just focusing on getting this Asphyxiate on the Hatchling. Now it's a little rough on Inspiring because I don't think the Inspiring is on the Hatchling, if I remember right. So you kind of have to work around that. Maybe just pull a small Grip of Man or something. Yeah, I don't mind if he gets added in. I just don't want the Matriarch. Unfortunately, the Hatchling does drop a Sanguine pool, so that can create some big problems. It kind of did here. We made this pack take a lot longer than I should have. I have a somewhat bad habit of coming into the pack sooner than I should, just because I'm thinking, oh, I need to heal up. I'm going to Death Strike, but I forget that I have a healer too, so it would probably be a better idea to, after you kite, let your healer top you off to at least, definitely 50%, but 75% or something like that, so that you don't just get one shot immediately and come back. There's been times where I have like 10%, 20% health, and I drop my stacks, and then I like run back in because I think, oh, I'm gonna Death Strike, I gotta heal up. But you've been out of combat for so long, your Death Strike's gonna heal you for like 13% of your max health. And you're just going to get one shot. So remember, your Death Strike works better when you have taken a big chunk of damage recently. So again, committing cooldowns here, using my Swarming Mist and Bone Storm. Those two pretty much always get paired together, and it's most useful on an AoE pack. You can use it on single target stuff like bosses and stuff if you know it's going to be back up in time for the next AoE pack, or lieutenants or whatever. But it really shines and that's why I liked that pull. I had 9k DPS. But really helps Blood's lacking damage. I've had some people ask me if, you know, how do you know when to run Bone Storm versus Vampiric Blood? I hated using Bone Storm before this patch because I was Necrolord, because I was on Unholy main, and you just can't get the runic power to spare to pop a Bone Storm. You do that, and then you don't have enough for a Death Strike, and then suddenly you take a bunch of damage, and the passive ticking heal of Bone Storm isn't enough, and then you suddenly just die. So I really did not like using it. But since being Venthyr, I realized I'm bad about using Vampiric Blood as much as I should. With Red Thirst, you can have it up sometimes 2 times within a pack, or more. It just regenerates so quickly, and you should definitely have it up for every pull. And so you can kind of just pop it on whenever it's up, at some point, every pack. But I don't save it too long, so Bone Storms ended up being better for me because I haven't been using Vampiric Blood as much as I should, even though it's an awesome cooldown. I love it. So on this boss, kind of just want to move him in a predictable pattern so that the melee DPS isn't having to walk around all 3 of those portals. You actually never need to go up as a Bloodbath Knight. The single bomb is never going to be on you, and the one that affects everybody, the explosive contrivance, you can just alternate between AMZ, or AMS, and then AMZ, and then your active trinkets and Icebound Fortitude. Like, pretty much popping one of any of those and then death striking after the hit, you're totally fine. You don't need to ever go up. So that helps out a lot. Even as DPS, if you use your cooldowns right, and depending on the level of key, you don't need to go up either. As a Death Knight. Okay, so we got 66%. We're good on percent. We actually grabbed a little bit more. I believe 64 is the threshold. Don't quote me on that. Use MDT to figure out your routes. But I aim for 64, and then if extra happens, it always seems to be fine. Seeing this blood shield reminds me of something. So I'm running Draven, and I have the talent that gives me a 20% shield of my max health whenever I Door of Shadows, and it's tempting to use Door of Shadows on the pull so that you have that big shield. That is a way that you could use it, but I honestly prefer to use Door of Shadows to kite. So that kind of makes that talent less useful. It does make it so that after you Door of Shadows, you have a nice buffer in case you're taking some ticking damage or something like that. But honestly, I'm considering switching to the other talent. The other talent that is in competition of that is the one that gives you a movement speed buff every time an ally uses a movement speed buff, up to 30%. So that's pretty great for a Death Knight, but I don't know, it's kind of in competition with the fact that I want to be standing still for Draven to get the stamina buff, which I'm not super great at. So here I'm going to stand still. I should... Nope, I went too early to get the stamina buff and damage buff. But... So I like pulling this Headless Client with this Dental Drill because it gives us something else to fight while we're, line of sighting this Haywire. It gives us something to do, and then also it allows us to, because sometimes the Headless Client will come around the corner with us and we can fight it. That allows us to pull this dog and the pack in the hallway together and reduce the amount of pulls that we do. Cuts out one extra pull. So there, I dropped Death and Decay on the walking boots. Oh, so my health there dropped down pretty low. I should have used Swarming Mist as I was running in, because that's one less global that I don't have to actually be standing there to use. And then I could have safely popped Dancing Rune Weapon, but I tried to fit too much into too little time with my globals. Also, my Death and Decay, I dropped it directly on top of the pack to the right that walks and explodes. I should have dropped it off to the side so that their feet were barely touching the far edge of it, so that they have to walk through it. And since I didn't do that, they did get pretty close I don't have grip, I don't have anything here to knock him out. And this, I remember this moment, I was thinking, oh man, this sucks. They're just standing in that sanguine. So the sanguine healing is really big on this one. Now I was able to get a kick on that, the ranged kick, to get him out of the sanguine pool, but definitely could have planned my Morphine's a little bit better there for that.
I must get closer.
Okay, dental drill. A little tip with this one. I like actually walking out on the last tick of his haywire as a tank, because it doesn't do that much damage to you, and you can keep him in the same position. I went a little late there, so you can see he starts to walk. You can keep him in a pretty consistent place if you do that, and then you can just death strike the damage back. It's not a huge deal. Here I like to grip in the lubricator, and I like to use Death and Decay to slow the memories. You can do it earlier, it's just mine was on cooldown. But you can use that even while they're standing in the middle of the slimes. And then they'll walk slow and they'll explode on the other side of the door. It makes it really comfortable on your DPS. For these lubricators, Death Knight has the benefit of having a lot of crowd control, so a lot of this you can manage by yourself. You can control 3 of the casts just by yourself, at least, maybe 4, because you have your Mind Freeze kick, and you've got Asphyxiate, and you've got a Grip, and you also have Gorfiends. And then if you're like a Torn or something, you can Stomp, or you can Bull Rush, or so you can control at least 3 or 4 of these casts, depending on how many cooldowns you're wanting to commit. If you're wanting to save Gorfiends for the next pack or something, then that's fine. But so that makes it pretty nice. So here I was able to grip the self-cleaning cycle off. So pretty nice. This pack really hurts. This is a good moment to use AMZ and use those kicks that I just talked about on as many of those essential oils as possible. Because boy, those hurt, and it hits random targets, and it makes it hard on the healer in higher keys. So here I put AMZ down. I put it down a little too late. I put it down as Sanguine's starting to come out. So we're not able to get the full benefit of it. We have to start moving out of it, unfortunately. Focusing down the high health targets, so ideally we don't have the kite at all. They can just all die. Here you can use Death Advance to just walk straight through the oil. Be careful about doing this though, because depending on the key level, depending on your DPS and stuff, a lot of times people trust you and they just walk on top of you, and they get themselves killed because they're not a Death Knight. So be careful. Although it's good for you, if you don't trust your group, if they've shown themselves to not really be super competent, then I wouldn't do it, just because they're going to blindly follow you to your death and you're going to have to wait on them. Here you want to keep Millhouse mostly still when these power crystals come up, so you can see I move to the side to block it, and then as soon as the DPS is there, I move out of the way so he can stay within melee range. It gives the DPS a boost. You want to kick as many of the frost bolts as you can, because there's nothing else to kick, and it helps reduce the damage. So here I'm blocking it, and ideally one of the DPS at this point should be moving, like that hunter should be moving over to grab the beam. But he has the laser, so that's totally fine. And then the other person, there's 2 people that have the laser. The person who is not soaking a beam should be the one that goes to the other side, to be on opposite sides of the boss. Really cool trick with Maleficent here. I like pulling her, so you can see I pull her over to the control panels over here. There's no reason not to, and then if you spam click on her, you'll pop the bombs. Now I made a mistake, I was on the wrong side, so I fixed that. So now it's kind of like batting practice. Like, I'm standing on the side of her where the bombs are going to run. They're not going to run to the wall. And so I can just keep spam clicking on her when she does the chat line for the bombs. So you can see right here, I'm clicking on her, left clicking, and as soon as the cog goes off, if you click on it while it's on top of her, you will be able to usually pop them before they get away. Depends on their pathing. Sometimes it's finicky and the healer will have to get it, or some ranged DPS if you miss it, but you can negate a lot of the bombs by doing that, and that helps out the group pump DPS and finish this boss faster. So just extra utility things that you can do. And if she had more health, something I like to do there is I like to bring the last of the 2 bosses over to that porthole there that we just jumped down. Kind of like how I kited Maleficent over to the control panels so that we could just be there for the rocket chicken barrage. You can kite her over to the porthole, so that you can immediately jump in after the channel of the draw mojo is done. Saves an extra second or 2. Alright, so for this next pack, we've got all the cooldowns we need. We're good to go. I'm thinking right now that I'm going to be using my Gore Fiends for this first pack to interrupt the devoted whatever cast where the dudes turn into birds. So I'm going to keep that in mind, but I'm also going to just save it in case the DPS is doing a good job of interrupting them. But with this level key and their health, we should only need 1 control before they're dead if everybody's focusing on them correctly. So here, yep, there's a stun, so I know I don't need to use it until it's almost dead. There's another stun, and they're dead. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to do Gore Fiends. Cool. I could chain pull this into the next, but there's a lot of kicks that need to happen with the heals, so I don't want to. I'm just going to finish him off, and then I'm going to pull this next pack with the Hexer. A Death Knight tip you can do here as Frost or Blood is you can control one of these Death Walkers, and then you can use him for the rest of the dungeon. It really, 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 really helps on Muzala, because Blood has very low damage, and it can be difficult depending on who your healer partner is and if they're damaging enough. It can be difficult to get down your totem. Like, I'm going to be making sure that I have Dancing Rune Weapon, just about everything. Unfortunately, I messed up and I used my pot on her car, and then made it so I didn't have it for the totem, but you want to save your pot as well. Because you definitely need the whatever extra damage you can squeeze out. A quick note on the Deathwalker, you have to control it from that pack. Here I Gore Fiends to cancel the sacrifice cast. You have to control the Hexer or the Deathwalker from that previous pack. There are Deathwalkers in the next pack, but it doesn't let you actually open the door until that is dead. So you have to dismiss it and kill it. So it's worthless to do it in the last pack. But if you do it from this pack that I got my Deathwalker from, the door opens and you're fine, and you're also fine on percentage. If you're not good on percentage, so I didn't account for this actually, you probably want to end Ardenweald with, this run worked out, so I'd say at least 66%, because I can remember there are times when I do the 64 where we finish the boss and we're like, wait, we're not done, and we have to dismiss and kill my Deathwalker, and that just adds some extra time that could have been saved. So 66% is pretty safe, because here we'll be good on percent. Trick you can do on this pull is I grip in the High Priest, and then you line of sight, and that way they're just all immediately ready for the pot. Now again, you can wait on the pot for a second like the Hunter did. It's nice to kind of commit some cooldowns first, and then interrupt them once they'll start running out. So I was able to use my Swarming Mist and Bone Storms stacks or charges and stuff like that. Cooldowns. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, talking a lot. Able to use those before using the pot. Nice habit to do, especially if you're the tank and you can actually have the luxury of being the one who initiates the pull, is I like to dismiss and recharm my pet. Because if a fight goes long and you don't have that long on your duration, trying to recontrol a pet in the middle of a fight can be really hectic. Because that's an extra global you need to spend, and then also if you don't notice, that's really bad, because then it's just killing people. So always, if you can, recharm before a boss. An exception to this would be you need to make sure that if you're controlling the commander in Theater of Pain, you need to recontrol it before you go upstairs to fight the last boss. I've had some problems where if you go to recontrol your pet on the last boss, it actually resets the RP. Like, she's not even attackable yet, and Mordretha will reset because you recharmed your pet. It's really bad. It just sucks up a ton of time. So be very, very careful about that. Haven't had much time to talk about this fight, but big benefit that you can do is you can use any kind of damage reduction cooldown when you use his blood barrier, AMS or something like that, and it will negate the damage, the size of his shield, so that's really nice. Also, you can utilize your grips and stuff like that to get the Sons of Akar away from your DPS and try to put the blood pools in strategic places. Unfortunately, as a tank, you're gripping them on top of the boss, so it's kind of messy, so it's not quite as useful. But when you're DPS, you can grip them away from the boss and drop the pools in safe locations and stuff, so that can be pretty clutch. I have a nice weak aura. I forget what it's called. It's the other side mark. The actual like command is DOS markers. I don't remember the name of the weak aura. It's like car markers or something. But you type ! DOS markers, and it gives everybody a marker, and it tells them in chat where they're going. So I can't unfortunately recharm the pet here because he's blade storming. He's immune to CC, and so it didn't let me dismiss him. So I end up doing it right now. Probably didn't even need to, but have it, and I wanted to be safe. Always stay in melee range of this guy unless it's the third cast on this ability that he's doing right now, where it hits the front of the room. Right here, Master of Death, you need to move away. Every other time, if you're not within melee range, so here you immediately need to get back into melee range, because otherwise he does a big hit that like kills the group. That Soul Crusher is the big thing you need to worry about. On hierarchies, when you're taking a lot of damage, you want to be rune tapping that. You want to be having a Death Strike immediately ready right after that rune, Soul Crusher. It's not a bad idea to commit cooldowns that aren't Dancing Rune Weapon to that as well. I'm kind of standing lazily in the Cosmic Artifices because I do nothing. There was one that I AMS'd and stuff, but you can use whatever cooldowns you want, but do not use your damage cooldowns like Dancing Rune Weapon. And I should have saved my pot here as well. If you don't have a Deathwalker controlled, you'd also want to cast Raise Dead. So, starting off with Dancing Rune Weapon, Bone Storm, Swarming Mist, whatever. Everything I can, and you can see, even with that, my healer is... I don't even think he's DPSing. I don't know what he's doing. Because I can't see him on my screen. But you can see, like, it's pretty clutch. We're killing him right as we've got the 10 seconds left for the coalescing, so we barely finished channeling it with about 5 seconds left to spare, so can't always trust your healer. I think the damage he was doing was just passive damage from his, like, his anima trait, the Sanguine one, whatever bottle thing, that deals damage when you heal. Fortunately, we were able to get all 4, but here, if you did not, you'd be looking around looking for where the totems are, so that you could mark and call out where to go. We've plenty of time left, so overall a very smooth run on the key. We did have that one death at the start of the Ardenweald room, but I knew why I died there was because of the Dancing Rune Weapon. We didn't have enough cooldowns going into it, so unfortunately didn't 2-chest it, but it is what it is. So good stuff. I hope this was helpful for people. Talking through my thought process. Blood Death Knight is a fantastic tank. It's a great tank for, especially with running with pugs. You just have the tools that you need to do to play with any group, and you don't have to rely as much on a healer. You can cover that, and I've loved it. It's been a blast. So I'm planning to continue playing a Blood Death Knight in addition to the DPS specs. So hope this helps. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more content. I also do stream on twitch.tv/Ragnon Gaming. I stream mostly on our raid nights on Tuesday, Thursday, and periodic streams starting around 9 p.m. Mountain Time on nights other than that. So have a good one. Thank you for watching.